Hope everything's going well. Um, just looking for a little bit of confirmation in the chat room that everything's good. Everyone can hear me. Okay. It looks like it's working for me. Just a couple thumbs up in the chat room. Just let me know if you can hear me and everything is going okie dokie. Let me get this. I can hear you. Excellent. Let me get the chat window ready. Sorry. I have been working my tail off on the next version of Foundation, and I was working all the way up to about 10 minutes ago. I was like, "Oh no, gotta get on the live stream." Hope everyone's doing good today. I thought today would be really fun to. I've been seeing a lot of like little htaccess questions lately. A lot of stuff on pretty URLs, and I know it's a really kind of confusing thing for a lot of people because it's like this big scary text file that has all kinds of crazy syntax and how do we do it? How do we use it? And hopefully I'll humanize it a little bit for you today, and we'll learn the basics and kind of how to not be scared of it and how to use it properly and how I use it. Pretty much, we're just going over how I use htaccess. There's only like a handful of things I use it for, and it could probably do a whole lot more than I can use it. But hey, I use it for what I need it for. And I actually have a few things I thought it'd be fun if we have time to kind of play around. I have some things I want to see if it's possible, see if I can get it done with some of the latest updates I've shipped to do some kind of interesting options with htaccess. So with some fancy redirect stuff. So we'll be kind of diving into a lot of redirect rules because a lot of people wanted to use, for pretty URLs and stuff like that. So figure we dive into that. Okay. So as always, thank you for joining. Danny, good to see you. Mr. Cole, Guy from Arizona, nice to see you. Gunter, as usual. Johan, thank you for joining. Marty, man, a lot of great people today. Alan, thanks for joining. Alan, and of course Martin. Thanks you for man. There's a lot of people from Germany are here today. They want to learn about htaccess. Probably kicking back on your sofa with a beer. That sounds really good right now. A beer. I should do that on the live stream. Hey, you can kick back with me on Wednesdays, or I'm sorry, on Fridays on the Hangouts. Many times I have a beer in hand, and we chit chat on the Hangouts. And let me get my screen ready here. Oops, I moved my camera. Let me just. There we go. Okay. Let's just go like that. Boop. There we go. Okay. So today we're going to be looking at htaccess, and I guess first we'll review how to manage an htaccess file and what is it. Okay, I'm going to minimize this really quick. So in pretty much what an htaccess file is, it's just a text file, and it is called .htaccess. So it's very, very important. You have to have the dot in there. So it starts off with a dot, and it's called .htaccess. Now, and this just lives at the root of your web server. So if we just go to my server, if we go to my test server here, I'm just using transmit. We will see if I scroll down. Okay, here I'm going to try something new today because people said my thing was okay. So if we look in here, we'll see that there is this file right here called .htaccess. Right. So really cool. Yeah, I tried to do a Zoom thing because last week people were saying a lot of stuff was really tiny, so thought I'd try this out. Okay, so yeah, there's a file there called .htaccess, and it is just a text file. And I actually have no clue what's on my htaccess file on my test server. But here it is. This is the contents of oops, you can't really see that very well, can you? Let me go ahead and pop that out. Oops. Sorry, 1 second. Let me just close that. Let's open that again. Oh, man, why does it keep going full screen? Oh, it's because I keep having other windows open. 1 second. Normally I have all these closed. All right, there we go. Jesus, it wants to go full screen all the time. There we go. Okay, that is the htaccess file on my server. Very, very simple one. Obviously, this is my test server. My production server is going to be has a lot more data in it. And we'll actually look at what I use as the starting point for my htaccess files on my production websites. Okay, so it's just a text file. So this .htaccess file is purely text, with obviously some syntax in it, right? And then we can have these little hashtags. If you start a line with a hashtag, that's a comment, right? So that is basically a way to like get rid of rules or temporarily turn off stuff or temporarily turn on stuff as well. So that, yeah, that's really, really handy. So like for instance, this little doodad here, on, I think it was yesterday or day before yesterday, someone was asking, they wanted to store some very, very sensitive data in Total CMS, and they wanted to make sure that everything was on lockdown. So this little htaccess rule right here basically says if you find any file that is .cms, .log, or .json, go ahead and deny access to it. So that will lock down like all files that are in the CMS data folder. And actually, it locks down for the entire server. So if some things require that you have a .json file, which most things don't, you might want to remove that one and just have .cms or in .log. And the log file is questionable as well. You know what? For support reasons, like me getting access to the log, like accessing your logs is super useful, because it allows me to help you without having to talk to you and go back and forth and stuff like that. So yeah, I recommend only doing this in the very Anyway, let's just revert back. Okay, cool. So htaccess is just a text file. Okay, it has a bunch of rules, and we'll look at a lot of the stuff that it could do in a minute. But first off, how can we manage this file? Like, how do we create it? How do we manage it? How do we have it? Do we edit it on our Mac? Do we edit it on the server? Now, to be honest, right now, how I mostly do it is I use Transmit, just as you saw right now. I have an htaccess file inside Transmit on my server, and no steam. I just double click it and I edit it directly on my server. That's how I normally do it. I just manage it all there in my server. If you recall, a long time ago, I did a live stream on my Git repository workflow for publishing. I do store it inside there as well. But one thing to note is if you want to download this to your Mac, and I'm going to download this .htaccess file. Okay, to my desktop. Okay, I downloaded it to my desktop. But you don't see it. Why don't you see it? Here, let's go into Finder and desktop. It's not there. Why isn't it there? Well, the reason is because on a Mac and any Unix machine or Linux-based machine, any file that starts with a dot is invisible. You cannot see it. But luckily, Transmit has the ability to see hidden files. You can do it in Finder as well. I always forget the keyboard combination. It's like Shift Command Alt Dot or something like that. Is that what it is? No. Command Dot. I don't remember. There is a keyboard combination, like a hidden keyboard combination in Finder to show hidden files. But if we go to Transmit and then we just go to my desktop, I can see right there, there's an htaccess file on my desktop. It's there. Now, if I go ahead and rename this, so a lot of times what we'll do is I'll just rename it to without the dot. So it's just called htaccess, right? And once I do that, you'll see that now we see it on our desktop. So really important, if you want to have that file locally on your Mac, don't name it with a dot. Just call it htaccess. But remember, when you move it to your server, it has to have the dot. Okay, there's no exceptions. It has to be .htaccess. Okay, and it has to be at the very top level of your website. So it has to be at the very top level. Some servers allow you to add stuff into subfolders. That's kind of rare. because for performance reasons, you want everything accessing one htaccess file. Okay, so hopefully that that gets the point home there, that with the file with the dots. Okay, so what are some other ways we can manage this? So RapidWeaver 8 shipped. It has a really cool feature. Let's go ahead and open up. Ooh, look, here's a Foundation 6 project, but I'm not going to open it. Okay, sandbox. So here we go. So inside here, let's shrink these. Okay. So if we go into publishing settings, okay, or yeah, publishing settings. So when you go into your publishing settings, you'll notice right down here, there is an edit.htaccess file. Okay. And it is configured on a per server basis. So like I have multiple servers configured here. Okay. You can maintain multiple htaccess files, blah, blah, blah. But right now what you can do is, if this is my sandbox server, I can go edit htaccess file. And what it's going to do is it goes to my server, pulls down the htaccess file, and allows me to edit it right here. And a cool thing here is you can actually make this bigger because sometimes it's a little small, right? Okay, now why is this really, really cool? Okay, why is this probably better than using something like Transmit? Is all of RapidWeaver actually keeps versions, right? So let's say I wanted to delete that, okay? And I don't want to just say delete comments, okay? I'm going to say save and upload. Cool. Now, if we go back to Transmit, oh, oops, I closed Transmit. And look at my htaccess file there. Look, it's those comments at the top are gone, right? So, and what's really cool is if I go back into RapidWeaver and I say edit htaccess file, oops, what happened there? Edit htaccess file. It's going to show me currently what's on the server. But if I click this little drop down, I can see all of my past revisions. So I can say deleted comments, and oops, or I can go back to my initial version, right? Which is this. Like, that's really cool. If version controls your htaccess file, I would say that's really cool. If you are using RapidWeaver, I recommend definitely to use this method, because if you mess it up or you want to go back to how things were, you don't need to worry about it. RapidWeaver, it's all stored in your RapidWeaver project. So that's really, really cool. I don't use this method mostly because I use my own version control outside of RapidWeaver, and for my test site, I don't know, I'm just lazy and I just use Transmit and edit it with that. But for live production sites, this is money. I definitely, especially, being able to see old revisions and reverting back to it. Very, very, very cool. Highly, highly recommend that. Okay. Cool. So we're actually not going to spend much time in RapidWeaver today. Let's just minimize that. We might come back to it later. What can an htaccess file do? Okay, so let me bring back my Safari window that I had open earlier. Where is it? Here it goes. Okay. So if you have not, hopefully you subscribe to the podcast. Even though me and Greg don't put out episodes too often, we have some good ones. And the one we did on htaccess is really great. And I definitely recommend you go listen to it. It's episode 20. htaccess versus Dolph Lundgren. I thought that was the best podcast episode I ever came up with, but title at least, right? So here, this is a great episode, but obviously it's all audio, it's not visual. So we'll be reviewing a lot of what this talks about today. But I definitely recommend you listen to that. Pop it in the car and listen on the way somewhere. And if the kids are in the car, they'll learn about htaccess too. Okay. So, we're going to be reviewing a few links here that are really good. The first one is a link to this Git repository. And this is the starter htaccess file that I use on my sites. So if I'm starting a new site, I go here, I download the latest revision of their recommended starter, and this is exactly where I start from. Pretty cool. Okay, here, let's go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and copy this. We're gonna look at it inside of VS Code because it's a little bit nicer here. Okay. And I need to be. Okay. Cool. So we're gonna look at that really quick. While I'm here in Safari, let's just. And if you want to know, this is just HTML5 boilerplate. If you just Google HTML5 boilerplate, and it'll take you here. It'll take you here, and then you just got to go to dist, and then I think it's .htaccess right here, right? And it's constantly updated with new tactics and everything. So we'll review the contents of this in a minute. Next is Greg Barchard has a site called Weaver Tips. I'm not sure how recent or he keeps posting stuff. I think pretty sure he does, but he has a lot of really great htaccess tips and tricks here. So if you want to turn off like directory access, right? He has little snippets, right? So this is a really important one. Basically, it turns off the ability for someone to like browse your directories from a web browser. Like this is like requirement. Like you have to have this in your htaccess file. Most web hosts have this turned on like in the server configs. You don't really need this, but I recommend put it in there just in case. Because that would be a hacker's dream right there. The next up is 404 pages. We reviewed 404 pages before, in the SEO helper stuff, because I have an SEO helper 404 stack that helps out with it. And actually, I'm going to be playing around with this rule a little bit because I have something new that I want to test. So we're going to be testing some new stuff with the 404 errors later today. Here you can force, and the rest of it is the whole thing of there's www, there's non-www domains, there's HTTP, there's HTTPS. You have to pick one of those combinations, right? I'm not going to go into all the whys of that, but you have to pick either you're going to use www or you're not, or you're going to use, you have to use HTTPS now, right? So hopefully you are, right? So here you can force whether or not someone goes to your www version, it'll force to the non-www version or the opposite, right? Force to the www version. And here forces SSL. So these are all really great snippets that Greg has. And again, that's weaver.tips. And then he just has a tag for htaccess files. I guess if you go to a homepage, it's probably like a listing of tags, maybe. I probably just search for htaccess, I assume. There we go. And just search for htaccess, and there's all of his recommended rules here. Most of these rules are going to be in the boilerplate code that we have that we're going to look at today. And next is a site I've played around with before. I use this all the time. Like it is amazeballs, and it helps us test redirect rules. So we'll come back to this in a little bit. But yeah, this is a really great tool. I've talked about it a couple times in various other live streams. But if you have redirect rules, it allows you to here actually really quick. Let's just we'll test this redirect here. So here, I'm going to put in here's some redirect rules, and what you can do is you can be like if I have let's see /post/hello there, right? So if I go to this URL, what is the finish URL going to be at the end? So boom. So this pretty URL gets redirected to this URL on the server, right? So it's just a way of interpreting the redirect rules and where ultimately that URL will actually end up being, right? So this is kind of really fancy stuff. This is how Total CMS does all its pretty URLs, right? And actually this is the boilerplate htaccess rules from Total CMS. So it's just kind of fun to play around with this. So if you're really playing with some advanced redirect rules and playing around with stuff, this site is, I found, really, really good and very useful. It doesn't support every possible syntax, but it's really good. So yeah, this is a great one. I've linked to it a few times. Madwithlove.be htaccess. I'll put this in the show notes. It's also in the Weaver Space or the Weaver Radio show notes as well. I have the htaccess tester in here. Okay. So without further ado, I've been yapping a lot. Let's jump into some code. And here we go. Let's look at this. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So, okay, there we go. Fun stuff. Let's make the text a little bit bigger. Hopefully you guys can read that. Okay, we're going to go all the way to the top here. So this htaccess file, this boilerplate one, this is the one I just copied and pasted from that GitHub repository, the boilerplate htaccess. And there is a lot of really great information here. Like, if you notice in the comments, they add tons of comments that really help you understand what all of these rules do. And we don't need a lot of them by default, but I just kind of leave them there even if they're commented out, right? So like, for example, this particular one here, this cross origins headers, that's a really techie stuff. That's if your website's like accessing stuff from other domains and stuff like that, probably don't need that, okay? But if you ever needed that, they have URLs to help you teach, to learn about what those are, and then you could just uncomment the settings right down here, right? Really, really cool stuff. We're going to be reviewing all the stuff that is uncommented right now. So here's ones for images. So a lot of times we do access images from outside our web domains. So this basically allows images only to be referenced from an external domain, right? So useful stuff. And this is turned on by default. Okay. Same thing for web fonts. A lot of times we're going to be loading web fonts from Google Fonts or other things. So what this says is, hey, if the server requests a file from to a web font and it's from a different origin, a different domain, go ahead and serve that up. Now, if this is something you want to lock down and you don't want, you can just simply comment that out, right? So you can just, by simply just putting hashtags at the beginning, you can do that. And if you're in a fancy code editor like mine, you can just do command / and that will comment and uncomment an entire block of code. So pretty cool stuff there. Okay. More cross origin stuff. Okay, now we get into some more everyday stuff, right? Here is our error document, right? So we've seen this before, probably. We have error document 404/404.html. Now, a couple months ago, I did a live stream on the new 404 stuff for SEO Helper. And I had recommended that you do something like this. So if you do like, you put in your entire, URL here. And while that is great for some things, it's not great for other things. So I think I cracked that nut today or yesterday. So we're going to be playing with that later today as well. How to do potentially even better 404 pages than I taught you a couple months ago. So yeah, really cool stuff here. Options multi-view. This basically disables pattern matching of files again. For you want that. Okay. Now this is a really interesting one here. This allows just to kind of show you the power of this. This forces any Internet Explorer browser to use the latest rendering engine, which is Edge, right? So, because a lot of times even Edge has like an IE8 rendering mode, and this forces Edge and later versions of Internet Explorer to use the latest that it has. So this is really cool. I mean, probably didn't even think you could do this from a server, right? But you can do that in your server config. That way, you can make sure that the web browser is going to be using the latest and greatest technologies. So when you got stacks on the page that maybe have some new JavaScript stuff or new CSS stuff, that stuff actually works, right? So this is a really good thing to have in your header file. I have it on all my sites. Okay. And to be honest, I mean, like IE11 is really, really reaching its end of life, and I can't wait to stop supporting that. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. Hopefully, please go ahead and push all of your end users and everyone that you know that's still using IE, and get them to move over to Edge, the latest version, which is I think like 18 or something like that right now. So yeah, move over to that. Okay, this next bit of stuff is going to be a lot of this add type and MIMS. Okay, what this is it allows us to say, let me back up a little bit. every file on your system, it has an extension, right? But there's also a mem type, right? So is this a text file? Does it contain HTML? Is this a JPEG or a bitmap image? Is this a video file? Stuff like that, right? So I mean, just because you put a .txt extension on a MP4 file doesn't make it a text file, right? Right. So but on web servers, most of the time, our extensions of our files determine what that file is. So what this does is it's basically a map of common extensions of files that are common throughout the web, and then its mem type. So it tells the browser what type of file it is, right? And it has a lot of things. So like here we have audio MP4, so we have M4As. Here we have video, so like WebM files, WebP images, SVGs, right? All that stuff. Now, most of the time, most modern web hosts will have this in their server configs, but sometimes they don't, right? And I've seen a lot of times where someone's trying to serve up something like, even something modern, like if you're trying to serve up a WebP image, WebP is a relatively new image format. It's possible that your server doesn't know what that is, so it might serve it down as a text file, and the browser may interpret it wrong, right? So if you notice that you have files and they're not being processed by the browser properly, a lot of times that could be fixed in an htaccess file just by mapping the proper mem type. So this is an image WebP to the actual extension. Okay. So, and we have all this stuff, font files. Fonts actually are a big thing. Well, they were a few years ago, right? Because I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, custom fonts were really starting to move, and a lot of hosting companies weren't associating font file extensions with the actual mem types. So a lot of times, like things like when I first shipped Font Pro, people were having a lot of issues because their servers weren't serving up the proper mem types for files. So this fixes that for us, right? And I'd say like adding all of this to your htaccess file isn't really going to slow down the performance of your server at all, right? So as you see, this file is pretty large, but it's not going to slow things down. It's really, really, really fast. The next is default char set. You probably want to set UTF-8. That's just default. Most servers are going to have that set as the default in the server configs anyway, but just in case. More mem stuff. Okay, now we get into some redirect rules. Okay, so here it starts rewrites. Okay, so here's some redirect engine stuff. And if we look here, this is going to start, I think this is doing, let's read what these rules are doing here. What's cool is if you notice here, this like explains everything here. And you can even, if you want further information, you can go and read all these FAQs and docs, and they really keep this stuff up to date. So yeah, this is really useful stuff. I believe this has to do with if you're doing HTTP versus HTTPS, right? So yeah. Here's the section on forcing HTTPS. Okay, so if that's something that you want, what you can do is you could just go ahead right here and just uncomment that, right? So right now that will force your site to be redirected to HTTPS, right? There's a lot of ways to skin this cat, as they say, right? There's a lot of ways to force the HTTPS. This is a good way, right? I think Greg's tip is actually a little bit different, but still works the same. So yeah, so this is one that's commented out by default. You probably want to turn that on. Further on, they have forcing to www or forcing not to www, right? So you can enable, see that. So this one is suppressing www, okay? And then the next one further down, if you wanted to force www, you can then uncomment this and then comment this block out. Okay. Just for fun, let's look at some of these rules, just so we can kind of get used to the syntax here. So this declaration here, this if mod, if module mod rewrite C. So what this says is if the mod rewrite C is installed on this server, go ahead and process this rule block. Okay. Now by default, I mean, if your host doesn't have mod rewrite installed, find a new host. I mean, every hosting company should have that. You probably don't need to have this if module in there because mod rewrite is like a standard across the entire web. But this boilerplate code tries to be as thorough as possible. So they have if module syntaxes for everything. So what this does is, so first rule here is we turn on the rewrite engine. Okay. Then we have a condition, and this condition says if HTTPS is not on, right? So HTTPS is not equal to on, then we have a couple possibilities that we can do. We'll ignore these, but then we just go straight to the rewrite rule, which is basically that we're going to redirect to HTTPS : and then there's some variables that we can use. We can use HTTP host, which is the actual full URL, and then the request URI, which is the full path to the page. Okay. These comments here, these rules or these conditions here are for if you're using things like if you're a host and you explicitly have things for like Acme challenges and cPanels and PKI validations, which is like if you're validating stuff with like various Google services or other things, you might need to redirect those if you ignore .well-known stuff. 99.9999%, you can ignore those. Okay, you probably don't need those, but the rest of this is good. And let's look at further on. So this one is suppressing www at the beginning of the URLs. So what this says is, okay, if mod rewrite, so if mod rewrite is there, continue on. We turn on the rewrite engine again. Then we have a rewrite condition. So if the rewrite condition says, if the HTTP host, this little caret here, so this gets into kind of some programming regular expression work here. Caret at the beginning means it begins with, okay, begins with. So if the host begins with www, then we want to redirect to the non-www version. Okay. And the way it's doing that is it's capturing with this little parentheses, it's capturing stuff, everything after www, and we're inserting that with this %1%. That's probably way over some people's heads. After I just said that out loud, I was like, wow, that's pretty complex. But that's regular expression work right there. So yeah, a lot of this stuff though, but the beauty here is I'm just showing you that these rules are already done for you. You don't need to know a lot of that. Okay. I'm going to probably move a little bit quicker here. Just some interesting ones. Let's see. What's this? Clickjacking. We'll skip all the clickjacking stuff. That's pretty interesting, but something we don't need. File access. This is the one. Greg had this on his thing. You definitely want to turn that on, like 100%, because without this in your htaccess file, people will be able to browse your web server. Not cool. So definitely turn that on. Let's see. Block. Oh, this is blocking access to particular files. Common, well-known files that we want to block. We can do that. All right, what's this one? Security stuff. There's a bunch of security stuff in here. I recommend keeping what they have enabled for the security stuff. I do as well. I have to be honest, I don't even understand some of this stuff. I'm just like, I read it and I was like, that sounds okay. That sounds cool. Let me just turn it on. Right. So yeah. Oh, deflate. Okay. Mod deflate. If you see this stuff is going to compress files down before it sends it down to the server. Why is this important? Because we want fast websites. And if we can compress our files on the server before it's sent down, right? What happens is the browser, all those files, because they're compressed, will be like, half or a quarter of the size they are. Once the browser gets it, the browser knows that it has been compressed, and the browser will uncompress that file. So if you're worried about performance and page speed and all that jazz, you 100% you want to have this deflate stuff in here. Now, if you're using something like Cloudflare does all of that for you as well. But it's always good to have that on your server. So yeah, you definitely want to have this deflate, definitely for performance reasons. Okay, man, it's already 12 o'clock. Okay, this next stuff, mod expires. This mod expires section. This goes over how long a browser is supposed to cache a file, right? So, like for example, if we look here, HTML files are 0 seconds. They are not cached at all. It should not cache HTML files. But if we see here, JavaScript files, those can be cached for up to 1 year. Okay, so really important there. So JavaScript files can be cached up to 1 year. So this really helps with speed of your website and performance and all that jazz as well. Now, luckily, with WrapWeaver by default, it uses something called cache busting links. If you have that, it is a setting in the general project settings. It's on by default. And when you every time you republish all files, it puts a hash out that will force browsers to cache a new version, and it will override what's set here. But this is really good. Having stuff cached, especially if you're not constantly publishing your site, even though we have cache busting links turned on now, so we should definitely have that. So we're good to go. But all this is really good stuff. You can tweak these if you want. I just left it with the default, to be honest with you. Okay. Okay. Now we hit the end. So what are some other cool stuff that we could do with htaccess files? You know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring up my htaccess file for Weaver Space here. Give me a second. Where is it? I'm stored in my Finder sidebar here. Oh, it's on data. Okay. So if I go to, oops, someone wanted. There's data, websites, Weaver Space. Let's just look at Weaver Space. Why not? What? Where's my htaccess file? Okay. We'll just exit here then. Let's just go into here. Okay. Here is some htaccess rules that I have on Weaver Space. Okay. So this is stuff that I would add to the bottom of this huge long file. Okay, because these are a lot of my custom rules. And so obviously you see up at the top I have I turn off directory access, and then that rewrite engine, when you turn that on, you only need to do it once. Okay. Then we have things like we can redirect stuff, right? So I have some folders on my server, /protected and file uploads file. I don't want people to be able to access those. So basically, if anyone tries to access those, I give them a 403, which means access denied. Okay. Okay. Next up is, let's see, what are some interesting things here? This isn't the file that I thought it was. I think I connected to a different server. Hold on one second. Because I know I have more files here. This looks, here we go. Okay. So we have the big, huge honking file. This is what I was thinking. Okay, good. Here we go. Okay. So here I have, this is a really good one that I do all the time is, if you ever see like, I want to redirect. So like, let's say I want to have /download/email theme, right? So if you go to weavers.space /download/email theme, it gives you a download. And the way I do that is through this little redirect rule, right? So you just do redirect 301, and then the path to where you want the pretty part to be, and then you just do the actual URL to the file, right? So now I don't need to remember the download link to that file. It's just weavers.space/download/email theme. Boom. And that's something that I can remember. I can put that anywhere. It looks pretty, right? And then it just resolves to that complicated download link that's on Amazon S3. Okay. I also have a few external demos, like the foundation site is its own site and total CMS and stuff like that. So if you go to weavers.space/demo/foundation, that redirects you to foundationstacks.com, right? I have things like, our events calendar, or the hangouts that happen every Friday, right? If you go to weavers.space/hangout, that just redirects to a Zoom call, right? So, it just redirects to this URL. So these are really, really convenient things that we can do in an htaccess file, these redirect rules. A few months ago, I renamed the get started page to be just start. So what it is, I set up a redirect for if anyone was, linked or went to the old URL, it just redirects us to the new URL, which is /start, right? So really, really good stuff there. And the next here, these are some complicated or not so complicated rules here that redirect files or pages based off of the URL, right? So if you go to here, let's look at a lot of these rules. So first off, these little kind of confusing looking rules here with the -F and the -D basically mean if the URL exists, just ignore it and continue on and ignore this rule, because that means it's a file that actually exists on the server. But next, I created redirect rules for if you go to /rapidiverse/stacks/something, okay, and this is a redirect rule that or it matches for any word characters or dashes. It redirects to /stacks, and then it puts the same thing at the end, right? And then same thing here, like these are, it's similar to what Total CMS is doing, right? But for blog, but if you go to /stacks/something, like let's say agent, right, that will redirect to /stacks/view.php !ID equals agent, right? Here, let's see that in action. Go to Safari. So if I go to Weavers space/stacks, here that's call to action, right? So if you see, I went to this URL, right? Can I right? So there's the URL. You see the URL there. It's Weaver space/stacks/call to action. Now, what that rewrite rule is doing behind the scenes is it's actually doing this: view.php !ID equals. So in the background, this is exactly what it's doing. And if I go to that URL, as you see, it's the same exact web page, right? But this URL just isn't pretty. That's what the whole point of pretty URLs and all of these cool actions that we did is that we could just have /stacks/call to action, but in the background, it remaps that to be something else, right? So as you see, there's a lot of power in there using these redirect rules, especially if you're using something like agent or something like that, because you can really change your URLs based off URL parameters passed to the page. So it's really cool if you can learn how to create your own redirect rules. Just looking at so Danny, just looking at some questions in the chat box, and yes, so Danny asked if htaccess files are Apache only. That is correct. htaccess files are an Apache config. Great question. So if you're using something other than Apache, a popular one is Nginx. Nginx has its own sort of thing for htaccess, but I don't know what it is because all I use is Apache because that's what pretty much every web host in the world uses. So yeah, if you're not using Apache, sorry. Okay. Sorry if I kind of blew by, kind of confused some of you. Right now, I want to try to have some fun with something. And let me look at my notes really quick here. there were two things I wanted to try to play around with today. And I'm just going to go past the time today just to do them because I think it could be interesting. Okay. First off is a 404 page. I want to play around with. All right, let's actually let's open up the SEO helper file just to I think here 404 not found. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna drag and drop that on there. Okay. And this page is, let's do slash 404. Okay. And this is the snippet that it recommends we put inside of our, oh, here's the snippet right there. Okay. So I have this 404 page. I'm going to publish it to my server. I need to transmit again. Okay, right now I opened up the htaccess file that's on my server. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste in these rules. Okay. So this is, we are on sandbox.joeworkman.net /404. Okay. Boom. So now if I go to my browser with this htaccess rule that I got from the 404 stack that's inside SEO helper, right? I'm going to go ahead and open up my browser again. Go to sandbox.joeworkman.net. Okay. We're going to go to, let's go to just some gibberish. Boom. Okay. Boom. It redirects us to our 404 page. Cool, right? Obviously it's not a very pretty 404 page, but it's a 404 page. Yeah, it works. Here, let's do something. I'm gonna just jazz it up a little bit here. Let's just so we can get some. Let's do this. Site styles on there, and then we'll put all of this in a one column, so the text isn't ginormous. And then we'll get a call out or panel, and we'll put these inside there. All right, now let's republish that page. All right. Excellent. A little prettier page. Now, if you notice now, when I go to, or again, I'll do it again. I just type in some gibberish, right? Some wrong URL. And if I hit go, if you look at the URL here, right? It redirects us to my 404 page. And that's what we expected. That's what we configured, right? But what if it were to, one thing that's kind of annoying is it redirects. And like, what if I just had a typo in my URL, but because it redirected me, like it's just gone. Like it would be nice if the URL up here stayed what my bad URL was, but it still redirected me to the 404 page. Okay. And that is possible. The reason we're getting the redirect is because inside this 404 rule, we're putting the entire URL. Okay. But if I were to do this, okay, without the, so I'm just putting the path. Remember, I'm putting /404 because I published my 404 page to /404, right? If wherever you publish your 404 page, that's the path you will put. Okay. So if I did that, I think I saved it. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to, okay. So boom, it displayed some of the 404 content, But if you look, that image is gone. Like, what? Why? That makes no sense. Well, the reason is, okay, if we look here, first off, actually, hold on. Let's open up the dev console. And let's look at this image. Okay. So this image is looking for, here, let's see, we zoom in. If we look at the path to this image, it's looking for index_files / stacks image, blah, 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 .jpg. Okay. So it's looking for it at, if we go up to our URL bar, that's what it's looking for. That's the URL that it thinks this image is at. But that's not where that image is at, because these folders don't even exist. So what the hell, right? And my solution before was, well, we just redirect to a 404 page. And then I discovered something mind-blowing last week, and I shipped it as an update to SEO Helper. And actually, I have yet to actually test it, okay? So where this image actually exists in /404 image, like that's where the image exists, right? But how can we display this 404 page, right? Or this image? So how can we get both? Okay. And I'd say this could fail miserably because I actually haven't had time to even test this at all. So this will be really interesting. Okay. So with that said, let's go and bring in SEO Helper. We're going to bring in meta tags. Oops. Meta tags. I'm only going to worry about the one meta tag that I want. It's this new one called base URL. Okay. And by default, this checkbox should just work, right? So I'm going to republish my 404 page here. And all I did is added this base URL feature. Okay. And let me explain what this base URL feature does. Is it informs the browser where this page resides and where it should base all of its paths to all of the files referenced on the page from. Okay. So if I go back to, let me delete that. Let's go back to this gibberish page. Oh, and it works. Yes. Boom. Yes. This is cool. So here we go. We get the best of both worlds. My URL bar, it still displays the bad URL, but we are displaying our 404 page. And it all works. The paths to the files, the paths to all the CSS. If you have JavaScript and CSS and stuff on your 404 page, like a lot of times that stuff will be broken because it just doesn't work, right? It will not work because it can't find those JavaScript and CSS files, just as we saw with this image. But by simply just putting this base URL tag in here, it fixes that problem. Really, 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 really cool. Now, I did something also. Oh man, do I still have that file? From a. Ooh, I still have this file. Interesting. So, if any of you were on a live stream I did before about how to do multi-language blog posts, okay, and I tried to do some fancy URL work where it would put the /blog post /language, and I couldn't get it working. Well, this base URL meta tag will fix that as well. Some really cool stuff here. So if you don't mind, Aaron, I'm going to play around with that too, because I'm curious to see if I can get this working too as well. So to do this, actually, I'm going to have to republish this entire project to my server. 1 second. Republish all files. I have no idea what this project even looks like anymore. But I saved it from that live stream that I did on Total CMS layouts. I don't know, last month or so. Okay. While that's going, actually, you know what? I'm going to do something different. Here. Someone wanted, okay. I've been doing a lot of multi-language stuff. So I'm going to change gears a little bit. So here on this page, I'm going to republish this republish all files. If you go to websites, a lot of times when we visit websites, we see we have, mywebsite.com/en/ and the page name, or /de/ then the page name, right? How can we do that? Like how can we have that layered structure using the agent stacks, but also create some htaccess rules that allow us to create that structure? Like that would be really, really cool. And again, this is something I've never done. Someone suggested that would be that they've seen sites do that on Weaverspace, and I thought it'd be fun to try to do that. And this, what I'm doing now, is actually very similar to what I was trying to accomplish for that total CMS example. So let's go ahead and do it this, since it's kind of a little bit more straightforward and not as many moving pieces. Come on, hurry up. I think it won't work anyway. Okay. So what we're gonna do is here we're gonna go to all right. So the home page here. The home page, I can do lang equals en. I can do lang equals es, right? And what we can do is I'm gonna duplicate this page. All right, page two, just so we know. Okay, done. Publish that. Oh, of course, I just published it. Okay. Anyway, so what I want to do is, in this URL bar, I have lang equals es. But what I want to do is I want to have es at the end of the URL. And then what I want to do is I want to redirect that to be lang equals es, or lang equals de, or lang equals en. Okay. So how can we do that? I'm gonna turn off that 404 right now. Okay. So what I want to do is let's just get rid of that really quick. So what I'm doing is I'm saying if the URL starts with /w/w, and then it has a slash, I have no idea if that's gonna work. Okay, sorry if you guys are just watching. Here, let's see if what that does. Oh, that broke it. Oh, let's do that. Let's simplify it a little bit. That's interesting. Not what I would have expected, actually. Let's go to page 2. Okay, so here we have, let's play around with page 2. So if we do, what is it? Does it need to have a slash? Aha. Okay, we're close. Okay. Okay, so this basically says okay. So what this says is if there's two word characters, so if there's two letters at the beginning, and that's the entire URL is two letters. Okay. What we want to do is we're going to redirect to slash question mark lang equals blah, right? And that worked. If you notice, all my things, but none of my styles are loaded on the page. Okay, so what that means is we need to have that meta tag from SEO helper. I need to add SEO helper to the page. Boom. This is like mad scientist stuff here. This is really cool. I'm just going to copy and paste this on page 2 as well. Okay. I'm going to publish this. Oh, snap. Okay, so here I go to slash ES, and what that does is that redirects to question mark lang equals ES, right? And then if I go to EN, that does English. And then if I do DE, that does Germany. Oh wait. Do I have a wonder why it says German homepage. That's weird. Do I have a I think I have a slash DE on my server. Oh, I do. So interesting. I actually created it for some other test I did. I created a slash DE on my server, and it's serving that because it exists. So I can go ahead and let's delete that. That just shows you that's what these two rules here, because it saw that file actually existed, so it served it instead. So now if we refresh, slash DE gives us, it gives us hello. It gives us Spanish. Why is that? Did I mess something up over there? And then if we do, here, let's do this for, now if we go to page 2, this goes to page 2 language equals EN. We need to create a rule for all. So we need to have two rules. We need to have one for our main page, our home page, and then probably another rule for our any subpage. So what we could do is we could say, let's see if that works. So now if we go to, because remember that this URL is page 2. So if we do ES slash page 2. Oh, it worked. But I thought I put the base on there. Oh, interesting. All right. Let's look in here. That didn't do what I expected it to do. Interesting. Oh, it looks like there's a syntax error on the page for something. Okay. All right, well, may need to do a little bit more work on this idea, but as you saw, it did fix that 404 issue. So I was 1 for 2 today on my experiments. I thought it'd be really cool to create these, these multi-language URLs. I'll keep thinking about that. And hopefully that will help out. And if I do figure it out, I'll make sure I post it on Weaverspace or do another live stream on it. But yeah, sorry. I know today I really went, I just went all in and just kind of like geeked out and probably bored the heck out of you. But hopefully you can, go back and review this video and maybe learn a few new tips and tricks on htaccess, a lot of it is just finding the rules that you need, probably via Google or via, somewhere. If you can't, whip out your own custom rules. It's taken me a long time. htaccess, the syntax for a lot of these rules is kind of funky. And especially if you're not into regular expressions, it could definitely be pretty funky. So definitely just, check out Greg snippets. Use that boilerplate htaccess file that I created for you guys, or not, I didn't create. It's open source, provided it's on GitHub. That serves as a great starting point, for things. And just search for, if you just need to do a simple redirect, just Google htaccess redirect, and there'll be tons of examples for you to use. As you saw, it's that particular one's really easy to do. But yeah, you can do some really powerful, fun stuff with htaccess files. Very useful. As you saw, even in my use cases, I just use it simply for, making really simple URL redirects. I do some rewrites for stuff for Total CMS, but luckily Total CMS kind of gives us that code. But the file is just a simple text file. You can upload it. You can manage it with RapidWeaver now, which is really nice. It'll version control it, or you can just, do it as I do and use a text editor straight through Transmit or whatever your favorite FTP app is, if it supports that sort of editing feature. So yeah, hopefully I didn't completely just, go way over your head. But yeah, it was kind of interesting. It was probably boring for parts of it, kind of perusing through the htaccess file, but hopefully it was useful to you guys. And hopefully you learned a thing or two. And I appreciate it. Hope you had a good day. Have a great rest of your week. I'm going to jump back in and start working on Foundation 6 again. And really excited about that. I created 12 Foundation 6 form stacks yesterday. The form stacks are really kind of coming to a round shape. They're kind of coming to an end. I'm really happy with how the forms are turning out in Foundation 6. Really super powerful. If you want a glance at all the stuff I did this week in Foundation 6, make sure you join me on Friday at our Hangouts, weavers.space/hangout at 1:30 p.m. Pacific. You just go ahead and click on the link on the Weaverspace homepage or on your events page as well. It'll have all your reminders and times and all that jazz there as well. And hopefully we'll have a great week, and hopefully I'll see some of you on Friday. And if you haven't joined the summit yet, go ahead and join us on the summit, October 18th to 20th, summit.weavers.space. Get your ticket now. I have a lot of really great speakers. We have 18 talks this year. I added 3 talks this year. So we're up from 15 to 18 talks. It's pretty crazy. So, and I have another person that really, really wants to talk, and I'm going to see if I can squeeze him in somewhere. So hopefully maybe I can do that. But anyway, have a great week, guys. Hopefully we'll see you again on Friday. If not, we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.